artists and art lovers. Welcome to Season 2, Episode number 6 of the Princeton Makes podcast. I'm Lavi-Hasson, your host, and my guest today is Crystal. Hi, Crystal.
Hi.
How are you this morning?
Doing great, thank you.
Got your coffee?
Yes.
Got your fitness?
Yeah.
Okay. We are here recording at our lovely space at Princeton Makes, and recently I've been asking my guest to tell us what Princeton Makes is. So, do you mind?
Sure.
Okay.
Princeton Makes is an artist co-op. There are about 30 artists, 40 now artists of all different mediums, creating all different kinds of art, sculpture, ceramic work, and we are located at the Princeton Shopping Center, so please come by.
And maybe I will add, we have some 15 studios here on site, and everybody's welcome to come and walk around and chat with the artists. So Crystal is the artist of the month of March, and she's gonna have her things in the window.
Yay.
And she's gonna have an artist talk. And are you excited?
Very excited.
Yes. Crystal has a studio downstairs in the basement. You like your studio?
Yes, I'm one of the basement dwellers.
What kind of art do you make?
I make mostly paintings with acrylic and oil-based paint. It's hard for me to describe my style, but I guess it would be closest to expressionism, loosely based on photographs, but non-representational.
Okay. And when did you start making art?
I think as young as I can remember, I've been painting. It feels like I've been painting and drawing all my life.
Yeah.
Since 4 years old, I was always in front of my Etch-a-Sketch pad.
Yeah.
So yeah, forever it feels like.
Are your parents artists?
Yeah, so painting was always something that I did with my dad. He also paints, he paints oil paintings. And we would just, like on the weekends, paint like a bouquet of flowers, or like he had like a statue of David bust, you know, and we would like draw that. I never really took art classes, or I didn't go to art school. In high school, I took some art classes just in my high school, and at the time, everybody thought that I was going to go to art school, and I was kind of curious about art school, but you know, my parents are very practical Chinese parents, and even though my dad loves painting, he was like, "You're definitely not going to go to art school.
Really?
You're going to go to, you know, get a degree in economics,"
This
which
was
is
in China?
This was in the Philippines, actually.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Tell us about where
Oh,
you come
okay,
from.
sorry. Yeah, so I grew up in the Philippines. I moved from China. I was born in China, and then at the age of 4, moved to the Philippines, and that's where I spent my formative years until college when I was 18.
Yeah.
I came to the US for college,
Yeah.
so I did not go to art school, as I mentioned. I went to the University of Chicago to study economics. Yeah, I mean, now I'm an economist. I'm a full-time development economist,
Wow.
and I do art kind of on the side, but yeah, I sometimes see the two as kind of complementary, even though sometimes it feels
Really?
like opposing. Well, my work brings me to some really interesting places.
Yeah.
So I was just in the Philippines at the end of last year, and then I was in Ethiopia before that.
Wow.
And so I think just exposure to different places and kind of textures and colors and atmospheres kind of informs my art in like an indirect way. You know, I'm not painting these landscapes or these things that I'm seeing on these trips, but it, yeah, I think it fills the well, so to speak. Yeah.
And what are you painting?
My recent paintings since 2021 are focused on kind of excavating some childhood memories of growing up in the Philippines. My dad took a lot of photos of us growing up. He was very good at documenting our childhood, so thankfully I have a lot of photos of me frolicking in the beaches and like going to the hot springs, and they're very meaningful to me.
Yeah.
So I've been using those photographs as a starting point for my compositions and my colors, and trying to layer in these memories, but also through my current adult psychology. Because it's like, these are photos that I don't have any lived, I don't remember those memories. Like when you ask me, do you remember, I don't remember that. I can only remember them through looking at this photograph.
Yes.
So the process of painting becomes this process of trying to reconnect with those memories without having a direct recollection of them, if that makes sense. And then also layering some of my current psychology, which, I'm a different person now, I'm no longer a child. So it's that meeting of selves a little bit.
So there's one painting of yours that I'm in love with, and I want to buy it one day, if you sell it. It's the one that is a very long shot, and then this very tiny people and kids next to a lake, right? Can you say how, and we'll put a link to that maybe on the notes. Can you say how this, for example, how this painting came to be?
Thanks so much, Zohar. Yeah, that painting is called Hidden Valley, and again, it's based on a photo of Hidden Valley Hot Springs in the Philippines, which was a place that we visited a lot.
This is hot springs?
Yeah, it's actually a hot springs. So it's not a lake, it's actually like a hot springs area. And I really love that the picture that I based it on because it evokes a sense of expansiveness and scale.
Yeah.
And when you're little and you're in this kind of tropical place, it can feel, you can feel so small.
Right.
And so I use that as a reference, and I kind of exaggerated a lot of the shapes. So the tree is actually much bigger and the people are actually much smaller.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to capture kind of the impression of that place and that memory.
And do you feel like a sense of nostalgia when you paint these paintings?
Definitely, yeah, definitely especially when it's in the winter now, just it actually makes me really nostalgic for tropical weather.
But you don't really remember these moments.
I don't, So it's in a way, it's like trying to cherish, re-access some of my childhood and
what does
those
your
years.
Dad say about your paintings? Is he here or is he in the Philippines?
My parents actually moved to Canada a year ago after living for 3 decades in the Philippines.
Wow.
So they're also kind of going through their own nostalgia process of the warmth and the humidity and all of that.
Yeah.
But my dad has been very, very encouraging of my art, and I think he's very moved that I'm using some of the photos that he had taken as a basis of my paintings, and it's almost this collaborative effort.
Yeah.
And I do think that art runs in my dad's side of the family. So my grandmother actually, she learned Chinese watercolor painting from a very famous painter at the time. But because of the Cultural Revolution in China in the 60s, she had to stop. And she basically stopped painting at the very young age of 22. So she didn't really have a very long creative journey. And I often think about her when I paint myself.
Really? Do you have paintings of her?
Yeah. I wish I had gotten to know her more as an artist when she was alive. She's passed away now. But yeah, I just remember when I was little, I was drawing a leaf and she was trying to tell me to draw a leaf a certain way. And I was feeling so annoyed because I had no idea that she had this whole creative identity. And so when she passed away, we found in a chest, wooden chest in China, just a chest full of her drawings and watercolors. So they were all on these small, very thin rice paper. So they're very, very delicate. And they're still in China now. So I hope that one day I can bring them here.
And why did she have to stop? Because of the revolution?
The Cultural Revolution in China, that was a time when Chairman Mao was in power, and everything that was considered bourgeoisie, so everything that was considered not of the peasants, right, and of the people, were condemned. So anything kind of arts was completely condemned, anything related to theater, anything that was beautiful and capitalist and considered capitalist and all of that. So she had to put away her brushes. And it was also coincided with when she was pregnant with my dad. So I think it was a combination of the demands of motherhood and also the Cultural Revolution just started.
And when was the Cultural Revolution in years?
It started around the 60s. Yeah, it peaked around the mid 60s or so. Wow.
And so you're a mom. We jumped a little bit, but that's
no, that's great.
How old is yours daughter?
My daughter is almost 3, so she's 2 months from 3.
And she comes here and roams around and feels at home, very happy. Reminds me of my daughter too when she comes here. How do you feel that this is influencing her? It's like kind of very generational in your family. So she's also growing up with a mom who's an artist and has a studio.
Yeah. I feel so grateful for this space to be able to have exactly that environment where she can see other artists creating. She can be surrounded by art, and she absolutely feels at home here. She marches in here and it's like her universe, I'm also happy that it seems like she's just really into painting herself. Like even when we talk to her daycare teachers, they say that of all the activities, she's the most excited about the crafts and arts. So
How
I
can
hope
she
to,
not?
yeah, I hope to continue to inspire her and, you know.
So do you paint with her at home or here?
At home, yeah, painting loosely defined, you know, just like, I'll set up some watercolors for her and she really, it's a very she gets in a trance state when she plays with, especially paint, water-based paint. She's not as much like that with crayons, but whenever I put watercolors or something that's very fluid, she's really into just seeing how the colors mix and how it goes on a page. It's this very childlike process of discovery that is really fun to watch.
Yeah. And you have a studio at home?
I don't have a studio at home, but I have recently set up a space in our back patio to do some oil paints because oil fumes, you know, the solvents are very smelly. I didn't want to expose other artists here. So I do have a bit of a setup, but once the weather gets warmer, that might just be overtaken by Atara stuff.
Yes, of course. I know you're very interested in color because always in the artist talks, these are your questions, or at least twice. So can you talk about that a little bit? Like how do you approach color?
That's a really interesting question. I think I'm very obsessed with color, but I don't have any formal training in color. So when people say color theory and secondary, primary, I have no idea what that means. It's more of an experimental process for me of just seeing what looks good together and getting it over time.
Yeah.
I'm very drawn right now to greens and blues and their complements. And
which is probably also your nostalgia.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of nature in the Philippines.
Yes, yeah. And then sometimes like I will get these flashes of color combinations and then I'll get kind of obsessed with it. And I think that's probably just a result of all the images that I've been looking at over the day or over the month, and then some of them sitting longer in my subconscious and then being like, paint something in orange and blue. So recently I had this particular combination of smoky blue and orange that I was like, I really need to make something in this color tone. And then it came out to be kind of a painting of my mother, but it wasn't really about my mother. It just took on its own life. So yeah, I think color usually is a starting point for me.
And you always use pictures as a reference?
Yes, I think these days I have been using pictures as references, but they may not be the starting point, if that makes sense. So like in terms of process, like in this example I just gave, it started with a flash of color, and then I put some of these colors on a canvas, and then it started to look like this reference photo that I was thinking that I had put in my phone. So then I was like, okay, now it's this painting is taking shape to become this image. And then I kind of let the painting lead.
So interesting. So first color and then shape.
Yeah, not always though. I think that compared to some other artists, you know, I'm not a very linear, my process is not very linear, and I really, really admire artists who have a very, very linear process where it's like, it's very streamlined and they're able to produce consistent works in a, you know, like a streamlined way. I think mine is a little bit more iterative. So in this example, it's like color first, but then in other examples, I might start with a photograph or the subject matter first. So
and I would say to that, but you're an artist, so it can't be, you know, linear. I mean, it can for some people, but it's totally normal to also be just intuitive and creative and do whatever you feel.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think because I am also an economist and because I have so little time these days to paint, I've been trying to like linearize my process more, and I get kind of in this obsessive state of like, what is my process? Like, how do I make it, you know, step 1 and then step 2 and then step 3? And that doesn't always work, and sometimes I get frustrated, but you know.
Are you stressed while you're painting?
Sometimes.
What are you stressed about?
The next step. I would say the first 2 sessions of a painting are joyful. You're just like, there's so much possibility, I've got some color tones down, the brush strokes are very loose, very energetic, and you feel great. And I would say that this is probably a fairly common thread among other artists too, maybe
So
not
let
unique to me.
me ask you this. When you say sessions, you mean when you come here, you paint for like an hour? How long?
Yeah, exactly. Like an hour or 2 hour sessions. Yeah.
Then you go home, come back again. Great session. Go home, come back.
By the third session, that's when like the torture starts.
Oh God.
Because you're kind of 60% done with the painting, but the last 40% of the painting is where things can really make or break. Like this can either become a painting that you're proud of, or it can be a painting that you'll never want to see again. So it's that last 40% that I find very stressful, because that's where you need to close things in and make some big decisions about, you know, the edges and the, like making this exactly purple or that exactly a different tone of purple. And it's through that process that I try to be a bit more systematic. And so it moves from this like more wondrous state of creation to a bit more of a systematic state of closing.
Your economic
the analysis side starts to come in, and I'm like, what color? So often I'll take a picture of it, and then I'll go home and I'll just obsess over it for like into the night. Like my husband will just see me on my phone like trying out different other colors using just like the simple phone edit color app thing with my fingers. I should probably just get a tablet and do it that way. But so that's how I tackle that last 40%.
So it becomes really hard, and you just don't know what to do, or you just do but you get stressed.
I think it just becomes more of a a torturous process.
Yeah,
is the word, like where I'll try many things, and then if I find something that works, if it's a color tone or something else, then I will, the next day I'll try it on the canvas, and then if that doesn't work, I cover it up, and then I think about what else to do. So it feels like you're solving a puzzle, basically. Right. You're trying to solve a puzzle.
But here, let me ask you this. Is there one solution? With the puzzle, there's one way to do it, and that's it. But with a painting, there are many ways that it can be successful.
Exactly, and I think that's what's stressful.
All right. So, and also, when do you finish? When do you know it's done?
That's really hard. Yeah, I think now I'm just setting some time limits. It's like if I don't want to keep working on something into eternity, like I will say in 2 sessions, if I can't solve this painting, then I've given it my best shot. I either make a call that it's something that I can show to the world, or I put gesso over it, and I have gessoed over so many paintings because after that, at the end of that torturous process, I set a time limit, and then if it doesn't pass my test, then start over.
But also what you can do, and I saw other artists do this, like just put it aside and bring it back after a year, and then maybe you suddenly you see something that you did not see a year ago. That's true.
Yeah, I probably should do that more.
This whole 40% is what I am not doing in pottery making. I'm just like, oh, it's done, it's gone.
And that was an intentional choice on your part?
I think so, because like writing scripts, and we're not talking about me, but just to compare the art. Yeah. Writing scripts is like, I think it's the same, except for it's like 40% is the fun and joy, and then the 60% is the torture. And it's a torture, and I hate that torture. So I just feel like I'm too old for this. I just want to do what I do enjoy.
I really relate to that.
So how do you combine being also a mom with being an artist and having a full-time job? How do you do that?
I actually think being a mom has positively influenced my art.
Yeah.
Even though in so many ways you have less time, you have less energy, but it makes the things that you want to do in life very clear. And so in that way, I've been this is the thing that I need to make time for, aside from other hobbies, so I need to focus on that. And the other way that it has influenced me is that I actually think painting helped me want to become a mother. So I actually, in 2020, before I became pregnant with my daughter, I painted this large painting of me and my mom called Newcomers, which is based on a photo of us in the Philippines. And it was the first time I had ever painted this mother-daughter dynamic, this like excavation of childhood. And I think now in hindsight, it was me kind of subconsciously preparing for motherhood. And so since then, like I've been really obsessed with images of childhood and images of my childhood, but a lot of that also has to do with being a mother to a child and seeing her experiences and experiencing the world through her eyes and reconnecting with that sense of childhood wonder in my paintings, but also directly in my interactions with,
Yes.
with my daughter. So I'm trying to see it as an inspiring force rather than a competing one, even though sometimes it's, with all the sicknesses and all the less time, it can feel like there's no time to paint.
Yeah, I mean, I am impressed how you, when do you, physically, like how do you make time to come here?
So I work remotely, and there is a bit of flexibility in my day.
Yeah.
So when I have a day where I have like meetings at night, sometimes up till 10 p.m. with my teams in the Philippines, I will take a lunch break of maybe between 12 and 1:30, and I'll come in here and I'll paint for an hour. Every Thursday night, I also make it a point to come here. There's another painter downstairs, and we try to meet each other on Thursday nights to have a commitment device kind of thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so you pick up from daycare?
My husband actually picks up from daycare because the daycare is at his workplace conveniently. So they'll come back, I'll have dinner ready, and then around like 6:30 p.m. on Thursdays, I'll be peace out.
And the rest of the days, does she go to sleep like early or?
Yeah, my daughter actually sleeps pretty well. She sleeps around 8:15, 8:30.
And then you can go back to work? Or?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you make it work. That's very impressive because it's very hard. So how did you get to Princeton Makes?
So we moved here from San Francisco a year and a half ago, and I really wanted to paint more because in our 2-bedroom tiny apartment in San Francisco, there was no space. So we lived pretty close to the Princeton Shopping Center. I was just walking around and then came in here and I like begged Jim I was like, please, like, is there a space for me? And around that time there were, I think, Vivian was also interested, but there was only one studio space, the last one in the basement before the restructure happened. And then so for a while, Vivian and I were sharing one studio space. And we made it work, and it was fine.
Yeah,
and then, there was a bit of a restructuring of the upstairs space. I freed up one more space downstairs, and then I got my own space.
All right, so Crystal, we're going to move on to our rapid questions part. So I need you to answer my questions quickly, like 1 2 words. What is your favorite artist of all times?
Oh, maybe Van Gogh. I'm just going to say Van Gogh.
Say Van Gogh. Yeah, I love him too. What is your favorite material to create in?
These are so hard for me. I'm going to say acrylic.
Okay. What is the space that you feel the most creative in?
Princeton Makes Studio. That's it.
That's what we like to hear. What music or podcast do you like to listen to when you create?
Yeah, I have some Mali music, like Mali blues that I like to put on.
Yeah. What is your worst artistic nightmare?
Oh, that's an easy one. So it's like I finish a painting, it looks good, I'm happy with it, and then I varnish it.
Yes.
And the varnish brush is dirty. This just happened to me, and it was like a horrible nightmare.
Oh my God.
Then like you basically trap these particles of like hair and stuff into your painting, and it looks terrible. Basically, when the process of varnishing ruins the painting, that's the worst.
That is a nightmare. What is the percentage of art making versus admin for you?
All art making right now because I'm focused on building out my portfolio.
In one word, what do you feel when you create?
Happy and stressed. Sorry, that's 2 words.
Okay, so thank you, Crystal. It was a pleasure talking with you. When is your artist talk?
It's on Saturday, March 30th.
6:30?
Yes.
Right, 6:30 and 7 you start talking.
Yes, thank you.
Where people can find you.
I'm on Instagram at Huang Art, so CHHUANGART. I'm also have a website, crystalhuang.com.
And people can buy your art on your website?
Yes.
Great. Our graphic designer is RD. Thank you, RD. Our music is by Renata Pugh. I am Zohar Lavi-Hasson, producing and hosting. If you have any questions or comments, please email us to princetonmakespodcast@gmail.com. Also, let us know if you would like to be added to our mailing list. We have a lot of events here. Please rate and share this podcast so we can reach others, maybe inspire them to create. We are located at the Princeton Shopping Center. We are open Thursday to Sunday, 10 to 6. Till next time, be creative and kind.